What's going on, everybody? Zack Rosenblatt here for NJ.com, here with Mike Kaye, the latest episode of the No Huddle Show. We're at Nova Here Complex, our preview episode, Eagles against the Bears. It appears more likely that DeSean Jackson is actually going to play this week. I don't think it's guaranteed by any stretch. They kind of been coy with officially declaring it. Doug said he was confident. DeSean said that was the plan. Do you get the vibe? Do you think he plays on Sunday? Do you think when we get to the field on Sunday, he's out there?
Yeah, all signs point to it. I think he's been trending in the right direction since last week, kind of the verbiage that was used. I know he didn't practice, but they made it sound like Doug Peterson made it sound like that he was making progress. He's been limited all this week. We'll get the actual designation of how he practiced during the walkthrough today.
I'm guessing limited later. Again, yeah.
Yeah, DeSean Jackson, Darren Sproles, and Timmy Jernigan, according to Doug, are all in kind of the same boat. And if you look at the clues of what they didn't do during the trade deadline, they didn't address defensive tackle. They cut Bruce Hector.
Good point.
They didn't address the running back position when Miles Sanders suffered a minor shoulder injury. He's also back.
Yeah, he returned to practice since our last pod.
They didn't address the wide receiver position. And reportedly, they weren't really invested in going after a wide receiver. They could have probably had Robbie Anderson for a third-round pick. All signs point to reinforcements and a restock shelf at on offense and defense. Avonte Maddox, who's practicing a full capacity, is definitely going to go. Doug Peterson said today that he'll play the starting nickel role, which moves Sidney Jones down. Which
I wonder if Jones plays at all now.
Yeah, I think we should talk about that kind of a little bit more in depth later in the show, because it was something that I played with. I texted you late last night, which was probably weird timing. I wonder if they play all.
Well, that's why you do that. You have these random thoughts at random times.
Right.
I wake up in the morning and I see that. I'm like, what?
It's more for me.
Yeah, you need to say it out loud, or tweet it out loud, or text it out loud,
or I'll forget it. Because you and I have a game that I want to play called 46-man gymnastics. So that's called the.
I'm not very flexible, so
yeah. Well, it's just mental stuff, and we obviously know
mental is even worse.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I think the only guys that you would rule out, obviously, and this is before the injury report comes out, is Nigel Bradham, who's got an ankle injury, and Jason Peters has a knee injury. I'd expect in this matchup against Khalil Mack and Leonard Floyd for the Eagles to help out Andre Dillard quite a bit from the blocking perspective. The one move that I could see them making is maybe calling up a tight end. They signed Scott Orndorff to the practice squad. They also have Josh Perkins, who
I forgot they had Josh Perkins.
They kind of tried to fit into that third tight end role, and he just kind of couldn't fit the bill. Because they do have 6 healthy corners at this point, and so
7 defensive ends.
Yeah, and 7. So you wonder if they do make a move with Deshaun Hall, maybe, or Craig James.
I feel like one or both of them will be inactive, probably too.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. But that's why I want to play that game.
Yeah.
But to come full circle, DeSean Jackson does seem like the most likely to play of all the injured players,
that's
right? I mean, I think that's kind
of... Him and Darren are probably pretty close, I would say. But DeSean, there's been more talk around him, so... Even just from talking to Doug and stuff like that. Yeah.
And you and I have watched him in practice. He looks healthy. I mean, it's all about that long sprint and what he can do and how he can separate.
Even if he's just a decoy on Sunday, which I think is a possibility.
Yeah, Doug Peterson kind of alluded to that. His presence alone kind of makes you think, hey, I need a safety out of the box, which can help out the running game quite a bit. This Chicago defense is very, very aggressive. We'll get into that more as we get into the preview for the game. But if you can take away a safety, it will significantly help you against this Bears team, because the safeties play very, very aggressive. And if they're chasing after DeSean and moving that side, you have the opportunity with Miles Sanders to throw downfield on those wheel routes. Jordan Howard will have room to run the box. The Bears are in the top 10 in both pass defense and run defense. So this will be a challenge for them, but I think the Eagles match up relatively well against this Bears defense as opposed to last year's. Last year's, I thought the Bears defense really matched up.
When the Bears lost Adrian Amos. He was their big loss this offseason, right?
Yeah. Anybody else? Well, yeah, they replaced him with HaHa Clinton Dix, who if you ever watch Green Bay, he really
in Green Bay got him. So.
Yeah. So which was a really interesting thing. And Adrian Amos is a baller.
He's good. Yeah.
Akeem Hicks is down.
Yeah,
he's one of the better.
I think that's notable. We'll get into that with matchups.
Yeah, he's one of the better nose tackles in the league. And then I think, from my perspective, if they're inside linebackers, if you can get Miles Sanders and/or Zach Ertz and/or Dallas Goedert matched up on those guys. Good luck, Chicago. Chuck Pagano. This is a similar defense to Vic Fangio's Bears defense, but Chuck Pagano's there too, so that's worth noting.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the personnel being mostly the same, probably. But so back to DeSean real quick. So he did talk in the locker room. I should say his mood wasn't enthusiastic.
Oh, I wasn't thrilled to see you.
It was. I mean, so I'll just give you a little peek behind the curtain. Like there's, especially in situations like that where you've been anticipating talking to a guy like that, what you'll have is a bunch of camera people just camping out by his locker, like a lot of cameras. This is one of the biggest media contingents in the NFL, and almost everybody is funneled to his locker. So he gets there, he's naked, going to the locker. To go to the shower at first. Everybody's still standing there. He comes out of the shower and he has to change with all of us standing all around him. I do understand the tendency to not be too enthused to talk to us in that kind of situation. But I would say he definitely wasn't that enthused. He was asked about specifics about the injury, and he not only didn't comment, he didn't say anything. Like, he literally just went silent when someone would ask about that. So, it's not too much to take from that, but I just find it interesting that he wasn't I'm sure these last 6 weeks have kind of drained some of that energy that he had maybe going into week one.
Well, there's a lot of heavy expectations.
Yeah.
Chances are he's probably reading about how the Eagles shouldn't have trusted his durability.
Yep.
And that's got to hurt the ego a little bit. Plus, watching your team go, play unevenly.
And he had to watch from home on the road games, by the way.
Right. Here's the thing, too. If he plays even the whole game against Atlanta, or he plays half a game against Detroit, those are both wins, and I think he probably knows that.
Especially the Atlanta one, because that was such a weird game.
Yeah, the Falcons wanted to give that one away. It's the only Falcons win of the season, which looks 10 times worse now.
Shoot, the Eagles had 2 receivers and 1 tight end by the end of the game, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I think Zach Ertz was their only actual...
That feels like years ago. It's funny how the NFL season works. It feels like so long since DeSean played. I was talking about this earlier, that first game was so good. He was amazing. I think we both thought, all right, he's probably better than we thought he was at this stage of his career. He might even get 1,000 yards if he keeps this up. It was the Redskins, but you felt so good, and then nothing. There hasn't been anything since then. It's the weirdest thing.
Still more productive than his replacement.
Well, that's the funny thing. His stats he's still third among receivers on the Eagles in receiving yards, and he's not that far behind Aguilar.
Mac Hollins has started 6 games, and DeSean has 29 more receiving yards.
Max is 0 for October, of course. But
you should get a T-shirt.
It's not really complimentary. I should say he did tell us early in the season that he preferred to play special teams. So it was there.
I'm sure a lot of Eagles fans agree with him.
He's more of a blocking receiver at this stage.
Oh God, I could go on a tangent about that.
So DeSean. But yeah, I think we've talked about this a bit. And I think we'll revisit it at the end of the year again when we evaluate everybody, including Howie Roseman. But it just doesn't they knew what they were getting into with DeSean when it came to his health. He just doesn't play the whole. You can bank on half the season, then anything more than that is good. And they didn't plan for we've talked about that. It didn't seem like they had a backup plan, which is weird for a guy that they just signed and wasn't on the team for the last few years, and for a roster that is pretty much the same offensively as last year.
Yeah, a similar situation is the defensive tackle.
Yeah,
but they did get
but the thing they got Jernigan and Malik Jackson and Hassan Ridgeway.
Right, they were prepared there, and that is
it's hard to blame them for that one.
Yeah, you can't really. Cornerback too. On paper, you would have said guys, they were 6 or 7 deep entering training camp. So wide receiver is a little perplexing. Maybe they really thought that Nelson Aguilar would be super motivated in a contract year, and they felt like he could be kind of a Swiss Army knife in this offense. They picked him basically over re-signing Golden Tate. That is a thing. Whether that was a conversation.
It was going to be one or the other. It wasn't going to be one. It wasn't going to be both.
So, and actually,
if they had brought Golden Tate back.
Well, actually, I think it's a compounded mistake because yes, Golden Tate missed 4 games with a suspension, but if you really think about it, how productive has Golden Tate been with Daniel Jones?
Yeah, he's like their number one receiver, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So, then again, if they were in that situation, they might have traded for somebody because he was out for 4 games, then DeSean went down, and what have you. It's a very weird situation, but also I think something we have to come back to when we were projecting how good this roster could be is J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. A lot of people thought that he was ready-made, and most of the Stanford guys can typically play right away and contribute, whether it's at a high level or at least a mediocre level. He hasn't contributed really anything outside of a massive drop in the Detroit.
And he had like a bad penalty, I think, week 1 or 2.
Yeah. I mean,
he's a rookie. Like, that happens.
Yeah, it does. And
but their expectations were high.
Rookie wide receivers are like a very weird breed because there are some guys who just excel off the bat, and then there are good receivers who struggle early on in their careers and eventually find their way. DeSean Jackson was good immediately.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is, like, besides like rare cases where it's a guy like DeSean, the whole thing used to be receivers wouldn't be good until year 2 or 3,
right?
And then guys started breaking. Like Anquan Bolden, remember, he came and had this amazing rookie year. Nobody expected that at all. And now it's become, these guys are like so ready-made now when it comes in that you kind of forget that it still is a very difficult position to play in the NFL unless you're like a freak athlete, which J.J. Arcega-Whiteside isn't, and what Terry McLaurin and DK Metcalf are.
Yeah, I mean, you could go back to Jeremy Maclin, who was a first-round pick. They played Brandon Gibson, a 6th-round pick, over him.
Forgot about Brandon Gibson
in the first game of that rookie year. So, and Maclin wasn't particularly terrific his rookie year either, playing opposite DeSean Jackson. So I think there's a history here of it takes some guys time to develop. DeSean was a rare breed.
And they got him in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
I mean, he had questions coming out.
Yeah, and also the size thing, and that was considered a kind of mediocre wide receiver class. If you look back, I
think the last one left that was drafted ahead of him was Jordy Nelson, and he's retired. So.
Well, and most of the class, only 1 or 0 wide receivers were taken in the first round. They were almost all 2nd-round picks.
Yeah.
The Devin Thomas, the Malcolm Kellys, the Limas Snead, James Hardy. Those guys were all like,
and those are all like 6'4", 6'5",
right?
Guys who in theory were great athletes, but not much else.
I mean, DeSean kind of got the LaShawn McCoy treatment.
Which, by the way, Arcega-Whiteside is neither those guys or DeSean, which
right.
maybe should have been something the Eagles looked at when they considered him.
Yeah, and I think it's telling that they've come out and said that he's the immediate backup to Alshon Jeffrey, and that's all he is. Yeah. So if you can only play one wide receiver position when Matt Collins really isn't doing anything at the Z receiver position, it kind of, I mean, yeah, you're going to have 2 slower guys out there, but I mean, slower is better than unproductive.
And that all kind of ties into, we talked about their decision to guarantee Alshon's contract next year. So I think that might say something about JJ, but I also think it's interesting if you look at it, the Eagles, whether they want to or not, kind of have to start DeSean Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey again next year. Mm-hmm. And I think DeSean, talent-wise, it seems like he's still in really good shape. But it's the health thing, and then Alshon is pretty clearly on the downswing of his career, I think. So it's going to be interesting in the next year or two. I wonder if they draft a guy early next year or if they try and sign somebody who can play right. Like, they're going to need a slot receiver now, right? Mm-hmm. So the receiver position is kind of going to be one of the interesting things of this upcoming offseason, at least.
They were rumored to be interested in Emmanuel Sanders and Robbie Anderson. Those would be the first 2 guys that I would target in free agency.
Yeah, that's a good point. They'll both be free.
So maybe that was the thought process, too.
Yeah, why sign them now and we'll trade for them now? We can get them for free later.
And I think they're not going to rue the day that they put so much value in compensatory picks, but I think
it's backfiring a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, their outlook needs to change a little bit.
Emmanuel's looking great for the Niners, by the way.
Oh my God, that game last night. Woo!
He clearly just needed a quarterback. It's crazy because he tore his Achilles last year, which is usually a tough injury for a receiver to come back from. Mm-hmm. And he's 31, 32, right?
Yep. So us 31 and 32-year-olds were spry.
You, Emmanuel Sanders, DeSean Jackson.
Full disclosure, I pulled my hamstring a couple of weeks ago running in the rain to a Carson Wentz.
So that's why that was funny, is what you're saying.
Yes, correct.
I don't believe there's anything else big news-wise.
You reported on it around the trade deadline, but All or Nothing is filming in Philadelphia, and today I noticed.
Did you see them in there?
Yeah, I noticed that we were being filmed as we asked questions.
Oh wow!
Which I hope they didn't get these childbearing hips in the shot. I'm nervous about that.
So All or Nothing, for those who don't know, is HBO. It's similar to the HBO Hard Knocks show, but it's on Amazon, and it takes place over the course of a full season. And Amazon releases it, I believe, during the summer usually. Mm-hmm. I think the Panthers have been on it, the Cardinals and the Cowboys, right? Mm-hmm. And they've also done like soccer teams also.
Right. And the way you can get it too is by subscribing to Amazon. That's how you get all. If you don't, then you get nothing. I think that's why they call it that way.
You started smiling before you started saying that.
Yeah,
that's how happy you were with that. That's how happy you were with that. Okay, what's he about?
The show is kind of...
I've never watched it, but...
I watched the Carolina Panthers thing season just to see the Ed Reed, Malcolm Jenkins interaction.
Eric Reed, yeah.
Yeah, what did I say?
I think you said Ed Reed.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Eric Reed, because they had that spat, and I think it was week 5 or 6.
Yeah, it was early in the season, yeah.
They pretended like it actually didn't exist. So I'm interested to see
kind of
what
like how Hard Knocks pretended like Mike Mayock basically didn't exist.
Right, poor guy.
But, I do find it... So it's NFL films both of them, I guess, which I had no idea about. So NFL controls which teams go on there, and... I don't think the Eagles are obviously a very secretive organ. We aren't going to talk to Howie Roseman until after the season. Mm-hmm. It's going to be 2 times in one full season, basically.
Right.
So basically, a team has to volunteer to do it, or they pick it, and so they pick the Eagles. And there's going to be some interesting stuff from the last couple of weeks. I'm curious, what kind of footage. I'm sure the Eagles have some control over what they can film. But even just the players reacting to Orlando Scandrick, I'm looking forward to this. Beyond the fact that you and I are going to be TV stars now.
Yeah. Well, I'm already.
we're going to get calls for pilots and.
I should let you know this already. I'm already a reality TV star. I was captured in joint practices with the Buccaneers, Hard Knocks with Jaguars several times.
I can one up you. I was on an episode of People's Court once, and I was walking down. You know that show where it's.
I'm very familiar.
We were in I think it's Santa Monica or whatever where they film it. And I was just walking with. It was when I was working for the student newspaper. We were out there for a UCLA game, and. They just asked us if we wanted to be on people because you just have the crowd of people that they'd turn to. And so yeah, I was on an episode of that. I think they asked me something. I can't remember. It was a while ago.
Well, I will one up you again. A good mutual friend of ours, Lance Madden, and I.
Right this minute, right?
Yeah, right this minute. It's a TV show. He actually just texted me the other day because it was Halloween, and he, one of my groomsmen, Hayden, and I were caught on camera just walking around. I was dressed as Captain America, but a cheap Captain America, the ones where you could buy them at Target, and it comes with the shirt and the... Anyway, we're off track. Well, speaking of Captain America...
And I when I was younger, this made me think... they used to have those Oscar Mayer commercials, and you could try out for them. I tried out for that. I wish there was tape of that, because it was probably really bad. I remember being so nervous going into that. I didn't get it, if you were worried about that.
Hot dog. Oh, puns are fun. Anyway.
Did you mean to do that?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
gosh, all right. I'm not funny, but I'm smart, I think. So that's a little insight into us. Anyway, back to DeSean Jackson. So I'm wondering, you and I have talked about this before. Jalen Mills returning to the lineup has kind of given the cornerback group an edge. And I'm wondering if DeSean coming back kind of does the same thing for this group.
I think his biggest impact beyond the football stuff is going to be the energy.
Yeah, I think that's important. This offense has seemed kind of lackluster in personality, kind of Chip Kelly-esque over the last few weeks. I think with the running game established now and DeSean potentially coming back, I think Carson's going to have it a little bit easier. I don't think it's going to be an immediate fix.
Not against the Bears and Patriots defense. That doesn't help.
Right. I mean, this is a tough stretch. You need him for this. If you can go 2-1 in this 3-game stretch,
good shape, yeah. Then you're in the running for a wild card potentially too, beyond the division.
And then you'd be 6-5, and then you have 5 games.
The rest of those games are very winnable.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas is your season probably, but
but it's at home.
Yeah,
exactly. But, I mean, again, I think people are kind of underplaying the importance of the Bears game a little bit. Because if they lose this game, they're 4-5, and then you're playing the Patriots. There's good. I mean, they were 4-6 last year, but it feels like it'll be harder to climb out of that this year.
Yeah, the NFC's much better.
And while I think you and I both are down on the Bears relative to last year, I don't think they're like pushovers by any stretch.
No, their offense is not good. They do have a weapon in Allen Robinson who seems to play well despite his quarterback play.
The dude's on pace for like 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns with Mitch Trubisky as his quarterback.
Yeah, well, and Chase Daniel was his quarterback.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, whenever a receiver... He's got
previous experience doing
So I was kind of thinking about this earlier. Like, Alshon Jeffrey is paid to be a number one receiver, and a number one receiver is supposed to be good regardless of the circumstances.
It's
supposed to make an impact. Yeah, look, like DeAndre Hopkins has had bad quarterbacks and has had injured players and had bad receivers around him, and he's an amazing player. But the Eagles pay Alshon Jeffrey to be DeAndre Light, and he just hasn't been that. And clearly, it's almost like DeSean is their more important receiver, which is problematic future-wise. They can survive right now like that, but with how much they're paying Alshon, it's not like they can keep kicking the bucket down the road because I don't know if they want him on the roster 3 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they want him on the roster 2 years from now. Yeah. You know, that's a fun game to play later on. But I just think when you look at this passing offense, this team's going to go as far as Carson goes. You know what I mean? And then maybe less than that because he's not getting a lot of help. I think DeSean will kind of bring up the play of Zach Ertz and you know, Alshon Jeffrey and Nelson Aguilar. Nelson doesn't have to be the guy anymore. He can kind of just do his normal, like, role. He doesn't have to be a Swiss Army knife. I think DeSean allows this offense to function. It shouldn't be that way, but it is, right? Yeah. So, look.
Facts of life.
Yeah, I think Jordan Howard, when you're going up... So, you want to break down the offense or the defense first? What do you want?
Let's do Eagles offense versus Bears defense.
Okay, so Khalil Mack. He's the story, period. That's what it is. It's Khalil Mack versus Andre Dillard.
Lane shut him down in the playoffs, if you remember.
Yes. They're going to move... That's probably why they're going to move him to the other side.
No Peters.
Lane will probably match up against Leonard Floyd.
Who's good, by the way.
Who is also good, yes. Andre Dillard will probably get help. I'm expecting a lot of Big V. I'm expecting a lot of Dallas Goedert on that left side. Zack Ertz would probably be a flex or on the right side. They're going to run a lot of 12 personnel. I would not be shocked if they finally listen to me and run a lot of 21 and 22 personnel. It worked against Buffalo in the one play they did it. I do think at times they're going to need an H-back or a fullback to kind of open up some space because this is a very good running defense. I believe they're 6th or 7th in the league.
Yeah, and so we mentioned this earlier, but Akeem Hicks being out, I think we'll see a lot of inside runs with Jordan Howard, and I think it could be more effective than it would be if Hicks was in there.
So they're gonna blitz. They're gonna send extra guys. That's why I think this is a really big game for the screen game. You can kind of bait blitzes and you can bait extra pressure and you know lopsided rushes from one side by using the screen game. I think the reason why I'm such a big believer in 22 personnel is you've got the two tight ends that can give you extra time to throw, but you also can run an RPO with either Miles Sanders or Howard. And if you're spying, if you have a linebacker who's assigned to kind of watch where Miles Sanders goes because you don't want a defensive lineman matched up against him, you can bite him with the running game with Jordan Howard. I think this running back group is starting to really complement each other well.
And if Sproles is back, that's another layer to it.
Yeah, exactly, and especially for the passing game.
Yeah. Hopefully Doug doesn't revert to old habits and give him the ball 10 times.
I'd actually kind of like to see a look where they're in 11 personnel. Miles Sanders is the running back, Darren Sproles is the slot receiver, and Aguilar and DeSean are on the outside, and you just try to
speed,
just like a speed package. And then maybe you do a slot screen to Sproles and get him out in space. Have Andre Dillard or Lane run in front of him or Jason Kelsey. Look, they're going to bring a lot of pressure. Their corners are good. I really like Prince Amukamara. Kyle Fuller is a Pro Bowler. Their safety group's solid. I'm not a big fan of HaHa Clinton-Dix, but I do know he's well respected throughout the league because of his versatility. Yeah, I think that's pretty much that's the gist of it. If Andre Dillard and his extra help can stop Khalil Mack, similar to how Lane Johnson protected Nick Foles last year, they're going to be in this game even if they're not blowing the team out. Offensively, I do like the matchup of Kyle Fuller versus Alshon Jeffrey, because I think Alshon Jeffrey can be a little bit more physical with him. Kyle Fuller's a little bit taller than your normal corner. He's 6 foot, but Alshon should be able to win jump ball matchups. Kyle Fuller is also an opportunist, so if he gambles, and could be a big gain. I think DeSean Jackson versus Prince Amukamara is exactly what you want as far as matchups are concerned for the Eagles, because he can beat him deep. Amukamara's not really fast. He's not very athletic. And Amukamara has been getting beat by DeSean Jackson pretty much his entire season.
I was going to say, they've probably played each other a bunch, right?
Yeah, when he was with the Giants. Yeah. But yeah, I like this offense versus defense. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk by any stretch, but I think if the Eagles get up by 14 points, there's literally no way to
run the clock out. Yeah. And then the flip side of that is obviously the Eagles defense versus the Bears offense. You mentioned Allen Robinson. Imagine Jalen Mills probably be on him.
Yeah, because Allen Robinson isn't going to beat you deep. He's going to beat you on jump balls. And what does Jalen Mills do very well? He's very good at using the sideline to his advantage. Yeah. And I think that'll help.
Yeah, Robinson's not like a deep threat.
Right. He's a jump up, get the ball kind of fella.
Their deep threat is what, Taylor Gabriel, right?
That dude is good.
He's once every 3 weeks he gets a 80-yard touchdown, it feels like.
Yeah, he's going to be good. You want Darby on him. I know Darby's been beaten deep, but of the two guys, that's probably who you want there. Look, it's going to be an interesting matchup. Avonte Maddox coming back, going up against probably my favorite wide receiver in last year's draft, Anthony Miller.
Yeah, I like him.
Who's been underutilized, but I think he's going to ball out in this game. I think Maddox really needs to come back playing better.
He was not playing. People forget about that now. Yeah. But he wasn't playing well those first 4 weeks.
Yeah, don't let his return distract you from the fact that he was not very good for 3 weeks. And then I'd say, sorry, I know I'm doing a lot of ums.
No, you're good.
Well, no, I'm apologizing. You have to just deal with it. But, I think the safeties will be very helpful in this matchup. Their running back group, I like David Montgomery a lot. I like Tariq Cohen, but I don't really think either one of them is a game changer. They did trade Jordan Howard for the equivalent of a travel thermos, and that's looking like a really stupid move. I'm sure Bears fans are listening to that and being like, well, here's one note. Well, he's not.
I was on a Bears podcast the other day, and they were like, don't talk about that. They were upset about that.
Every Bears writer that I've talked to over the last few weeks has been like, they really effed up here.
I mean, so Howard has, I believe, 443 rushing yards, and Montgomery and Tariq and 5 touchdowns.
6 total.
6 total, but 5 rushing. And Dave Montgomery and Tariq Cohen have 430-something combined and 3 touchdowns. And Tariq Cohen has 50 rushing yards this year. They messed that. I mean, Montgomery I think is going to be good, but Howard was good right away for them.
This is going to have to be a very disciplined Eagles defense. I know that really doesn't strike the right
strike a nerve,
there. Because Cordarrelle Patterson is a gadget guy. He can do a lot of good things. We'll talk about special teams in a minute, because that's where I think this game's probably won or lost.
No Cody Parkey.
No Cody Parkey, correct. And I think when you look at this, Adam Shaheen's an okay tight end. Trey Burton hasn't been
familiar face
all that often. He didn't play in the wild card playoff game. He was a last minute injury scratch.
That's right. I forgot about that.
But look, I think this Eagles defense can do some things here. Their offensive line is not very good. Kyle Long's on IR. Whitehair is not that great. I'm forgetting half their offensive line.
It's not as good as it was a year ago.
Right. I think the Eagles will be able to eat. It looks like the pass rush has kind of found its groove a little bit. Derek Barnett's played very well. Brandon Graham is a superhero in a lot of ways over the last 3 weeks.
Fletcher Cox is himself.
Yeah, Fletcher Cox is ready to rumble, man. Ooh, I feel bad for the middle of that thing. Oh, we forgot to talk about Mitch Trubisky.
Oh, yeah, we didn't mention him. Not good.
Blake Bortles of the Midwest. He is not good, and he's
gotten worse.
He's making a lot of mistakes. If they can get pressure, he will throw interceptions. I think this is the game that possibly gets him benched. If the defense plays as well as I think they will, as far as matching up is concerned. Look, they put wide receivers around him. They theoretically put decent running backs around him. Tight end position's fine. The offensive line isn't terrific, but it's not awful either. It's not like it's the Vikings last year, or the Texans last year.
Yeah.
And he's just he's not getting it. And I think,
it's problematic for Nagy.
Sure it is, but he's also not the guy that picked him.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which helps. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if we see Chase Daniels in the fourth quarter. Chase Daniel in the fourth quarter of this one.
All right, so let's go to our picks, and then we'll read some comments and reviews. What
you're gonna have to bring it up.
Yeah,
I don't remember what I had to score. I did have the Eagles winning. I just don't
you
remember
have.
what.
Let's see. Here you go.
23-17. Okay.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do think this is a touchdown game. I do think it'll come down to that. I think Mitch Trubisky cannot handle that. I think the Eagles, you know me, I love to do narratives. I think that the Eagles will be able to effectively run the football against this team just because, Hicks is out. I think the dual threat of both Sanders and Howard should work. I know Howard's going to be motivated. He kind of deflected questions about this being a big game for him.
You talked to him in the locker room, right? Yeah. He's not a huge talker.
No. That was the gist of the conversation. I just think if DeSean's back, this was my score before, because I think I gave this to you Wednesday before practice.
Yeah.
So this is my score before DeSean. I'd actually probably move it up to 26-17.
So he just gets them in position for another field goal kind of thing?
Yeah. I think this is a big game. Look, it's been windy around Philly the last couple of days. I think it's a big game for Jake Elliott. I think it's a big game for Cam Johnston.
Still perfect on field goals, yeah.
Listen, Cam Johnston's going to have to be on point because Tariq Cohen's one of the best punt returners in the entire profession. Yeah. And I think he and Cordero Patterson are going to be...
Great name, by the way.
Yeah, are going to be legitimate threats to this team. Remember, they gave up a 100-yard kick return touchdown to Jamal Agnew in week 3. There can't be situations like that. You cannot give Mitch Trubisky points to stay in a game where he can kill you with maybe one drive.
Don't let it so the Bears are the ones killing the clock either. Like the Eagles falling behind wouldn't be great.
Correct. I'm window.
I had Eagles winning 20-17, mainly just because we need. I mean, it's hard to. It just depends on what DeSean is out there partially. Because if DeSean is himself, I think the Eagles could win this one by more than a touchdown. But it's just so hard to predict that. So I think it's going to be a close one. I do think the Bears defense could give Carson some trouble, especially on the Andre Dillard side of things.
Sure.
That might be what decides this game almost, because if Khalil Mack is wreaking havoc in the backfield, it could be a problem.
So let me give you these two notes. The Eagles have won 4 straight games against the Bears. The last time the Bears beat the Eagles, Lane Johnson was at the University of Oklahoma. I'll also say this. Carson Wentz has not turned the ball over at home this season. He hasn't.
Wow. I didn't even realize that. It's a good stat.
Yeah. All 4 of his interceptions have been on the road in blowouts. So, worth noting, he hasn't even fumbled and recovered at home. So, the Eagles fans are going to need to make that home field advantage stick out. But I think Carson's a guy who can feed off that energy. If they can win a second straight game going into the bye, I think it'd be huge for them.
It's just great to be able to cover a game in Philadelphia again.
Oh my!
It's been too long.
Oh dear Lord!
We were so much younger when they were last here.
Oh,
it was the Jets game.
Yeah, I had a full beard. It was weird.
You've been through a full beard and shaving it 3 times, actually.
I shaved for the second half of the season.
You had another kid in those 3 weeks? It was crazy.
Yeah, it's weird. How did this kid show up?
Yeah, where did this kid... Anyway. All right. So you guys actually gave us some reviews, which we appreciate. These are from the last...
We only appreciate the 5-star ones.
Yes. The last 4 in a row are 5 stars.
Oh my God, we've tricked
Even
him.
one that says the sound could be improved was a 5-star.
We've tricked him, Zack.
Yeah, we tricked him. So these are all from the last week and a half. Some are 2 are from before the trade deadline, I think. But Julius Benyard, 5 stars, says, love the show. Do you think the Eagles can make it to the Super Bowl with this current roster if they play like they did against Green Bay? And what gave the Eagles the spark on that short week? Oh, he's saying if they can replicate that for. I still don't think this is a Super Bowl team.
No, I think this is a one and done.
Probably. If the receivers had shown more with DeSean out, maybe, but you can't just rely on the one guy.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'll say: if the corner reinforcements work out and Avery really establishes himself in this rotation,
if he's a surprise Patrick Robinson guy,
and Timmy Jernigan returns to form, then I could buy it.
A lot of ifs there.
A lot of ifs right now. I think if they win the division, I think they're 2 and done. If if they're on the road and they sneak in like last year, I think they're one and done.
Yeah. This is from Friday, so it's a battle trade, but I'll read it since we appreciate all 5 stars. Swisherman, 5 stars, says Robbie Anderson is a solid player who would thrive in the Eagles offense. He's 6'3" with wheels. Him and the slot with D. Jackson, Alshon plus Ertz and Howard coming out of the backfield. We can trade Nelson for a 10th rounder. Just get him out of my sight. I would have preferred they kept Tate over him. Hey, we kind of talked about that.
Hey, look
at
us.
Not the 10th round part.
How fortuitous.
And then fast start is the comment on here. It's from Coach48, 5 stars. Fast starts, I think he's saying fast starts are overrated. The only thing that counts is if you have more points than the other team at the end of the game. When you drop 2 game-winning throws at the end, you lose the game. 6-2 should be our record.
Well, I agree.
But they're in those positions because of slow start.
So I think it's a cumulative effect, right? But you want to be able to close, is what I think.
Kind of like like Tim Tebow, when I was talking about this, when he went on his run, like everybody would like hype him up because he would go on these long comebacks, but they were in those deficits because of him in the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Like it's a 4-quarter game, and you deserve. There's a reason why you're trailing at the end.
And we'll probably get hate mail for that, but a lot of Nick Foles' wins come in that sort of...
When you start slow and put yourself in a hole, that's why you're coming back.
Correct.
Or have to come back. All right, and then we had a few comments on our last pod. Keep them coming on YouTube for those of you listening on there. Sean Sinise says, might as well call up Greg Ward from the practice squad. Has Holland even caught a pass since the Vikings game? He's contributed nothing at this point. He didn't even catch a pass in the Vikings game.
Yeah, he wasn't...
Hollins.
Oh, you're saying Hollins. Yeah, because I was going to say Greg Ward. Greg Ward played in 3.
Yeah. I mean, I would have called Greg Ward up, but they clearly trust Mac more than him. So, I mean, I don't know. I like Greg Ward, but maybe he's just not good enough. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if it hasn't happened now...
Yeah, he's one of those things, yeah.
Yeah, can I read a comment real quick?
I know, I knew you would be happy about this one.
From Daniel Timms.
Frequent commenter, by the way.
I like Devin Sawa, or however you spell it, in Idle Hands.
Is that a movie, Idle Hands?
Yes, Idle Hands. Oh, man, that's like that might be a little... You were probably like in late elementary school or like middle school when it came out, but yeah.
And then we had someone responded to that saying, great movie.
Yeah, it's funny as heck. Yeah, I do recommend you watching Idle Hands.
Little Giants
he was
in
Little Giants. Yes,
who was he in Little Giants?
He's the quarterback.
Oh.
Yeah, he's the kid that Fridge, or what's her name? Or Icebox falls in love with. Yeah,
Little Giants. I think it holds. I haven't watched it in a while, but I'm pretty sure it holds up.
I watched it 2 years ago. It was amazing.
It's like a kid. It's like 90s sports movie that's like corny as heck, but it's so great. That one's like just funny though.
Yeah,
like Rick Moranis is the freaking football coach, and Ed O'Neill, who like to that point everybody only known him for what's it called?
Married with Children.
Married with Children, and he's like so ridiculous on that show, and this he's like the villain. So it's like,
well, what's so interesting to me, and I thought about this several times, unfortunately, is
several times.
So Rick Moranis is like hardcore Canadian, like he's from the heart of Canada, and I wondered if he grew up a CFL fan, and that's the reason why he was so into this movie, because otherwise, yeah, he's perfect casting for it, but what does he know about football? You know what I mean? So I always thought that was interesting. But Devin Sawa is most well known for Final Destination. He's the main character in Final Destination. He plays the human form of Casper the Ghost. That's our pop culture references for the day. But listen, Daniel, keep throwing out your movie stuff. We'll talk about it. We're not going to stick to football.
Dude, I've been rewatching all the Star Wars. This is the end of the podcast anyway, so we might as well just have some fun. But so I've been rewatching all of them in order of like the chronology.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
dude. But I was thinking about the prequels, like they're bad, like no question. But there's like people are so focused on how bad they are, like overall. There is some like really good stuff in the 3 movies. Like the second one is the worst in the whole saga.
Say it again. Wait,
in the whole Star Wars franchise.
No. But say the word again.
Saga.
True.
Okay. That's New Jersey in me. But especially the whole part where they're on their romantic getaway or whatever. But
I would be far too intimidated to tease a senator. I'll never forget that line.
Or Anakin's line about how he doesn't like sand because it's coarse and you're smooth or whatever he says to her. Yeah. Anyway, it's so bad and they have no chemistry at all. But like, there's some battle scenes in that movie that are so good. Like the battle between Jango Fett and Obi-Wan is like really fun. All the Count Dooku is like it's like a pretty cool character, honestly. Like he shoots lightning and he has like 2 lightsabers or whatever.
Well, and it's cool. The casting's cool because if you know anything about Christopher Lee got his start playing a lot of like vampire Dracula.
Well, and then Two Towers was like the same year, I believe, too.
Oh, okay.
And he was in that too. Yeah. And then the third one, I think there's like the makings of like a good movie in there, but there's like still a lot of bad stuff. Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, if you take
like there's a lot of good stuff in there, and if it was just a better actor than Hayden Christensen, like he it's really hard to like separate the fact that he's just so bad.
Yeah, the casting's not good there, but if you take away probably the first 20 minutes of that movie, and then
of Sith.
Yeah, of Sith. And then everything after the lightsaber fight with Obi-Wan, I think it's a really good movie.
Yeah. I mean, that the fight with him and Obi-Wan is like well filmed. Like the scenery is so good, and just I have the higher ground and him jumping up. Like, and then the where he's Darth Vader at the end and he does the loud no. It's just like so
that's
funny.
That's why you should cut it out.
It's so funny though.
Yeah. I don't know how we just went past Phantom Menace and didn't bring up how great Jar Jar is. Like, that's no, I'm just kidding.
But I mean, well, then the Darth Maul battle was legitimately like tense. But I listened to another Binge Mode, which is a great podcast. Obviously, I'm sure people know that is. But they point out how like it keeps cutting away to like stupid scenes with Anakin and Jar Jar
the slide frame.
Yeah, if it just stayed on the fight with Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon Jinn, like that would have been an all-time scene. But it still is like that's the only reason to watch Phantom Menace. Is that really
correct? Yeah, once you get to that, and then you got little Jake Lloyd accidentally killing. Spoiler alert. Destroying like the Senate from within or whatever.
But I forgot that in the second one, Jar Jar, he had like a smaller role, but he's kind of like the reason for all the Star Wars because he granted like the power to Palpatine, like to use all the clones, the droids. Jar Jar was a senator, and he's like there for Padme.
Oh right, yeah, he's like a fill-in,
and he just like gives the power to Palpatine. Like Jar Jar's the reason why the war started.
Huh. The more you know.
Anyway, that was our little Star Wars aside. I hope you guys appreciated that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, your favorite couple, Jamie and Candace Palmer. What's up, our favorite beat writers? I think this team is finally getting healthy and can rally together and go on a run. I think they'll win the division. I'm also predicting they beat the Patriots. Keep up the great work.
Oh wow! Yeah. It's hard to disagree with friends, but Jamie, Candace, we say it every time, but the couple that YouTube's together stays together. I still think the Patriots win that game. Now, if they come out and beat the bricks off the Bears, we'll have another conversation, which I know we will have.
I'll read this one because he gives us a scenario, which I like. Drew Christensen. Hey, guys, what scenario do you think is the most likely to happen? Jordan Howard runs for 100 yards, the defense creates 3 or more turnovers, or the Bears put up 20 or more points and win. The most likely of those.
3+ turnovers.
Yeah. And I if Howard wasn't going to get 100 last week, I feel like he'll probably just get close. I feel like he's going to break through at some point, right?
I actually asked him that directly, and he said, I'm not really worried about 100 yards.
That's a Jordan Howard response. Because he was 96. He was so close to breaking through. All right, well, on that note, thanks you guys for your comments. I hope most of your comments now are about our Star Wars thoughts. That was as fun as a conversation I think we had on this podcast, for our sake at least. But yeah, thanks for listening.
Oh, whoa. Breaking news. So just before the bell, I guess you could call it, 3 notable starters have been added to the Bears injury report. Trey Burton, groin, which I believe is what he was suffering from during the playoff game last year. Taylor Gabriel, shin. And safety Eddie Jackson, hamstring.
I forgot about Eddie Jackson.
They're
questionable, you said?
I just see that they've been added. Hold on one second. Let me use my phone that you've banned me from. It doesn't say either way.
Either way, they're banged up, clearly. So.
Yeah, they're just on there. So it might mean that, they're an hour behind us. So
it's never good when somebody's added to her injury report on Friday.
Correct.
General rule of thumb.
Yeah.
All right, something to leave on. If you guys have lasted this long, then let us know. And
sometimes you got to get through the Star Wars goodness to get to the real story.
Yeah, you got to get through the prequels to get to A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Rate us some more 5-star reviews, please. We would really appreciate it. And leave us some comments. And check back with us on Sunday.
This is Acast Recommends. Every week we pick one of our favorite shows, and this is one we think you're going to love.
Tell me what you eat, and I'll tell you who you are. Hi, I'm Adam Roberts, a cookbook author and comedy writer, and that quote is the inspiration for my new podcast, Lunch Therapy. Join me as I ask people what they ate for lunch and use that as a way to explore their psychologies.
I use scales for hamburgers.
A lot of the aunties in my family circle called me Picky Nicky.
I don't want to cry.
No, please, this is Lunch Therapy.
I don't want to cry at Lunch Therapy.
So join me as we unpack our lunches and our issues together on Lunch Therapy.
Acast is home to the biggest podcasts from the U.S. and around the world. Subscribe to this show and hundreds more now via Acast or wherever you get your podcasts.